Derrick Rose, ACL tear, April 28, 2012. We start here because this one isn't just about the injury itself. It's about what the injury took. Derrick Rose in the spring of 2012 was 23 years old and the most explosive point guard on the planet. The youngest MVP in NBA history. A player whose combination of speed and scoring instinct felt genuinely unprecedented. Chicago had the best record in the Eastern Conference. They believed they were built to challenge Miami. They believed Derrick Rose was their answer to LeBron James. Then with 4 minutes left in a first-round playoff game against Philadelphia, a game the Bulls were already winning comfortably, Rose drove left, planted his foot, and crumpled to the floor. No contact, no collision, just his own body betraying him at the worst possible moment. He grabbed his knee. The arena went quiet in the way arenas go quiet, when everyone understands simultaneously that something serious has just happened. ACL, season over. And, as it turned out, far more than just the season. Rose came back the following year and tore the meniscus in his other knee. Then again, the player who had been untouchable at 22 spent the next 3 years playing a combined 10 games. Here is what makes this the most emotionally painful injury on this list, even if it isn't the most visually graphic. Rose never blamed anyone, never made excuses, never stopped working. He came back every single time with the same quiet determination, just trying to find something close to what he once was. He never fully found it. The cruelest part is that you can still see glimpses of it occasionally even now. A burst of speed, a driving finish, a moment where the old Rose appears briefly and then disappears again. Just enough to remind you of everything that was taken. Kevin Durant, Achilles tear, June 10, 2019. This one didn't happen in a random regular season game. This happened in Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant had been sidelined for over a month with a calf injury leading into the 2019 Finals. Golden State was down 2-1 against Toronto. The pressure on the Warriors organization to bring Durant back was enormous. He came back in Game 5, and for 12 minutes he looked like himself again, the most unguardable scorer the league had seen in a generation. Hitting pull-up jumpers, creating space against double teams, reminding everyone exactly who he was. Then he planted his foot on a drive and went down. He reached back immediately, grabbed his Achilles. And the way he reached, the knowing way, the way a player reaches when their body has already told them what happened before their brain has caught up, made everyone watching understand. Durant walked off the court under his own power. The Toronto crowd, to their credit, gave him a standing ovation as he left. He tore his Achilles completely. His entire 2019-20 season was gone before it started. His move to Brooklyn, already announced, was now a rehabilitation project rather than a fresh start. What makes this injury carry such weight beyond the physical is the context surrounding it. Durant came back when the medical staff may not have been fully ready to clear him. The pressure of the moment, the finals, the team needing him, the narrative surrounding his legacy, all of it created an environment where returning felt necessary. He paid for it with a year of his prime. Achilles injuries at 30 years old in professional basketball are career-altering even when the recovery goes perfectly. Durant recovered well, better than most expected. But the version of KD that existed before that night in Oakland has never quite returned in the same form. He gave Golden State everything he had, and it cost him more than anyone should have had to pay. Paul George, compound leg fracture, August 1, 2014. This one changed how the NBA handles media access at practice events. Let that tell you something about how bad it was. August 2014. USA basketball scrimmage in Las Vegas. Paul George, then one of the rising stars in the league, fresh off an all-star season with Indiana, goes up to contest a fast break and lands awkwardly against the stanchion at the baseline. His right leg snapped. Not a clean break. Not the kind that happens internally where you see someone grab their leg and go down. The kind where the bone comes through the skin. Where teammates standing 10 feet away immediately turn their heads. Where medical staff sprint onto the court. James Harden was in that gym. He said afterward he couldn't watch. Multiple players left the building entirely. The NBA quietly revised its policies around camera access at practice and scrimmage events after that night. The footage exists. Most people who have seen it wish they hadn't. George was 24 years old, just entering the stretch of his career where everything was supposed to accelerate. He came back the following season and deserves enormous credit for what he rebuilt. He became an all-star again, made all defensive teams, Had stretches with Oklahoma City and later the Clippers where he looked like one of the 5 best players in the league. But Indiana, the team that had built around him, the team that believed he was their cornerstone, was never quite the same after that night. The Pacers had pushed LeBron's Miami Heat to 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals just months before that scrimmage. With a healthy George continuing to develop, they were a genuine threat to end Miami's reign before it ended on its own. That threat ended against a stanchion in Las Vegas on a summer night when nobody was even keeping score. Gordon Hayward, dislocation and fracture, October 17, 2017. 5 minutes. That is how long Gordon Hayward's Boston Celtics career lasted before it was taken from him. Hayward had just signed a max contract with Boston that summer, one of the most anticipated free agent signings of the offseason. A player in his prime, 27 years old, coming off the best season of his career in Utah, joining a Celtics team that genuinely believed it was ready to challenge LeBron in the East. 5 minutes into the first game of the season against Cleveland, Hayward went up for an alley-oop, came down awkwardly, and his left ankle shattered on contact with the floor. Dislocated and fractured simultaneously, his foot was pointing in a direction feet are not supposed to point. LeBron James, standing nearby, immediately waved frantically for medical staff and turned away from what he was seeing. Jaylen Brown sat on the bench with his jersey pulled over his face. Kyrie Irving looked at the floor. Players from both teams stood frozen in the kind of collective shock that has nothing to do with competition. The broadcast cut away. The arena fell into the kind of silence that doesn't feel like a sporting event anymore. Hayward spent the entire season rehabilitating. He came back the following year, but the explosiveness, the quality that had made him a max contract player, was diminished. He spent years chasing the player he had been before those 5 minutes. What compounds the pain of this story is the timing. Boston without Hayward still made the Eastern Conference Finals that year on the back of Jason Tatum's remarkable rookie playoff run. With a healthy Hayward alongside that young core, Tatum, Brown, Irving, the Celtics had a genuine argument as the best team in the East. LeBron swept them anyway. But a healthy Hayward changes that series in ways nobody can fully calculate. He gave Boston 5 minutes before his body gave out. 5 minutes. Shaun Livingston, full knee destruction, February 26, 2007. His injury deserves its own full treatment because what happened to his knee that night in February 2007 belongs in a different category from everything else on this list. Livingston was 21 years old, starting point guard for the Los Angeles Clippers, finally healthy for the first time in a career that had already been interrupted by a dislocated shoulder and a knee dislocation in his rookie year. During a fast break against Charlotte, he went up for a layup, came down, and his left knee simply gave way beneath him. He tore his ACL, his PCL, his lateral meniscus. 3 out of 4 major ligaments destroyed in a single landing. The medical staff that arrived on the court that night, experienced professionals who had seen severe injuries throughout their careers, were visibly shaken by what they found. The conversations in the immediate aftermath included the word amputation. Livingston was 21 years old, and doctors were discussing whether his leg could be saved. It was saved, but the road back was unlike anything most athletes have been asked to navigate. He spent the better part of 2 years relearning how to walk, relearning how to run, relearning how to trust a body that had catastrophically failed him at the worst possible moment. The Clippers, the team that had drafted him 4th overall, the team that had finally seen him become the player everyone believed he could be, let his rookie contract expire while he was still rehabilitating. No extension offered, no commitment made. He was 22 years old, learning to walk again, and his team moved on without him. What Livingston did after that moment is one of the most remarkable stories in NBA history. He bounced from team to team for years, sometimes playing well, sometimes just trying to stay on rosters, until Golden State gave him an opportunity in 2014, and he rebuilt himself into one of the most reliable bench players of the dynasty era. 3 championships, a career that lasted until he was 33. But the player he was supposed to be before February 26, 2007, the player scouts compared to Magic Johnson, the player the Clippers believed was their future, that player never fully came back. What came back was something different, something tougher, something that had earned everything it got, but different. Kevin Ware, compound tibia fracture, March 31, 2013. This one didn't happen in the NBA. Kevin Ware was a 20-year-old sophomore guard at Louisville. The Cardinals were playing Duke in the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament, one of the biggest stages in college basketball. With 6:33 left in the first half, Ware went up to contest a 3-point attempt. He landed, and his right tibia snapped completely, the bone breaking through the skin in full view of the national television audience and everyone in Lucas Oil Stadium. His Louisville teammates collapsed, literally collapsed. Russ Smith fell to the ground. Shane Behanan covered his face and wept. Coach Rick Pitino turned away and could not look. The Duke players, opponents in a high-stakes tournament game, stood with their hands over their mouths in visible distress. The referee nearest to Ware had to physically move away from where he was standing. The broadcast cut away immediately, but not before millions of viewers had already seen it. Here is what makes Kevin Ware's story land differently from everyone else on this list. While his teammates were still on the court, still visibly shaken, some of them in tears, Ware reportedly told them from the floor to go win the game. To finish it. To not let this moment define the season. Louisville won. They went on to win the national championship the following week. Ware watched from a wheelchair. He came back the following season and played college basketball again. He never made the NBA. His professional career was a series of brief stints in minor leagues across multiple countries, never finding the foothold he needed to build something lasting. But Kevin Ware's moment in that tournament transcended basketball in a way that has nothing to do with championships or contracts or legacy. He was a 20-year-old kid who suffered one of the most graphic injuries anyone in that stadium had ever witnessed, and his first instinct was to tell the people around him to keep going. That is not a basketball story. That is a human one. If you enjoy NBA history, draft breakdowns, and basketball documentaries, subscribe for more deep dives into the league's most fascinating stories.